we have a serious problem. My Goodreads average rating is a 3.15.
Brother, ugh.
Do I even enjoy reading? Today we must set out on a dire mission to read 100 books that I will potentially love before I wither away and die.
It's time for the 13 Nights of Saraween.
Besties, it's officially day 2 of the 13 Nights of Saraween, and we need to talk about this issue at hand. Lately, I've been noticing a trend where booktubers whittle down their physical TBRs with really fun vlog series. For example, Riley Marie has TBR Tackle, Becca and the Books has Shelve It or Scrap It, Emily Fox has Read It or Unhaul It. What do I have? Absolutely nothing. I'm a big user of the library, which is a good, noble quality, but unfortunately, it does not lend to making fun booktube content. So I got to thinking, why unhaul when you could haul? This won't be a simple series of me going to the bookstore and just buying books that sound interesting to me. My buyer's remorse won't allow that. But I've chosen 100 books that I'd like to read within the next year. I know I said in the title and in the beginning before I die, but I just like the drama of it all. My goal and hope is that my bookshelf will be teeming with new books that I love and adore that I can recommend to all of you. And hopefully my Goodreads rating will be slightly higher. We won't really like raise our hopes for that. I'm hoping I can at least find like, I don't know, like 20 new favorite books or something out of 100. Is that a good percentage? 20%? I don't know. We're gonna try our best. This series is going to be called Buy It or Buy It. Each episode, I will read things off this 100 book TBR, and I will decide if they are worthy of my shelves. A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hobb. A Regency romance that has trans rep. I'm very excited to read it. Someone You Can Build a Nest In by John Wiswell. Cozy monster romance fantasy horror? Sign me up. Blood Over Righthaven by M.L. Wayne. All I needed to hear was dark academia fantasy and I was in. Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. Someone said there's a heist in this and I love Ocean's 11, so I will be picking this up. The Tainted Cup by Robert Bennett Jackson. You did hear me right. This white man has made it into my list twice because this one also piques my interest. It is a fantasy mystery with a female detective. That sounds right up my alley. The Lies of Loch Gomorrah by Scott Lynch. I think the main character of this story also might be a thief, and I got a thing for thieves, I really do. Creep by Jennifer Hillier. This is a thriller that I genuinely know nothing about. The Favorites by Lane Fargo. This is a new release for next year. I am including new releases on this list, and I think it has to do with sports, and there might be a thriller element. This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead. Another new release for next year. I need Ashley Winstead to have another win because Midnight is the Darkest Hour was a dark hour for me indeed. A Night to Surrender by Tessa Dare. This is a Regency romance. No idea what it's about, but Tessa Dare is my girl, so I definitely want to read more of her backlist, so very excited to pick this up. Emily of New Moon by Ellen Montgomery. Anne of Green Gables is one of my favorite series of all time, so I definitely want to read more from Miss Lucy. Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater. From what I know, this is about angels and demons. The Witch Would Not by Olivia Atwater. Olivia did make the list twice. I think there's witches in this. A Song for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. All I know is that there's robots in this and everyone loves it. Suffer the Children by Craig DeLuey. Children that are vampires, I think. After That Night by Karen Slaughter. From my understanding, this might be like number 15 in the Will Trent series, but someone said that I could read it as a standalone, so I'm gonna try it. But if there's a different Karen Slaughter book you think I should read instead, let me know. I've already read Pretty Girls and The Good Daughter and Coptown. I think those are all the Karen Slaughter that I've read. Oh, I've also read pieces of her. I don't know. Let me know if there's any Karen Slaughter that I should put on this list instead. Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. I know there's a house and there's probably starlings. Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. Cozy fantasy. T. Kingfisher. I'm right there. A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher is one of the authors that gets to be on the list twice. The Murders of Molly Southbourne by Tade Thompson. I know this is a horror novella about a girl that something happens when she bleeds. I don't know exactly what happens, but I know Riley read this in a video like years and years ago and it's been on my TBR for a really long time. The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. I know this is fantasy and a lot of people like it, and I've heard that it's very unique in the way that the story's told. The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. This one's a historical fiction that makes everyone cry, and I don't read a lot of historical fiction, but this one has always piqued my interest. It sounds very somber and beautiful, and I think I need to pick it up. Requiem for Immortals by Lee Winter. I think this is a dark sapphic romance about a contract killer who's hired to kill this woman, but then she's like, what if I didn't kill her and I kissed her instead? Just Last Night by Vari McFarlane. This is a romance that takes place in the UK, and I think there's therapy involved. Things in Jars by Jess Kidd. From what I know, this is a historical thriller mystery. One of my subscribers, Monique, recommended it once in the comments, and it's just stuck with me as something I want to read. Night Swim by Meg Golden. A thriller with podcast elements. Mixed media is always gonna get me. Jane Steele by Lindsay Fay. If you took Jane Eyre and made her into a murderer. Night Song by Beverly Jenkins. Beverly Jenkins is a POC historical romance author that I've really been wanting to read for a long time, and this one has a lot of really good reviews. Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I think I have committed many crimes crimes by having never read this. A Study in Scarlet Women by Sherry Thomas. Female Sherlock Holmes, Victorian England. Check, 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 check. Sarah's interests. If the Duke Demands by Anna Harrington. This is another book that someone recommended in a comment. Don't know anything about it. I just know that it's Regency romance, and I am trying to be in a Regency romance era. All Systems Red by Martha Wells. Sentient Robots. Sci-fi novella series. Sign me up. A Rogue by Any Other Name by Sarah MacLean. I had to put this on my TBR for two very important reasons. Number one, because everyone loves Sarah MacLean and says she's a really good Regency romance author. And number two, because many years ago when Riley first started doing the Smudathon Readathon, I actually had a thumbnail where I edited my face onto this book. And so I have to read it. I have to read it because I did it all those years ago. I think it was like literally 2017 when I did this. And so it's just been calling to me. It's something I have to read. It's part of my lore. Mile High by Liz Tomford. This is a sports romance that ended up on my list because my IRL friends, Megan and Katie, begged me to put it on here because they said it's a really good plus size rep and they loved it. The Misadventures of an Amateur Naturalist by Sheinwin Lang. I don't know how to say this name. I think it might be a Scottish name. So sorry. I do not know. Sheinwin. I don't know how to say this. I'm gonna be so honest. I don't know what this is about. I just liked the cover and I saw it on Goodreads. It was giving me Veronica Spiegel vibes because I think the main character might be a natural historian. She's studying things. She's smart. I don't know. That sounds good to me. From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. I am forever on a search for a book that feels like the cutting edge, and everyone's been telling me that this one is the closest. Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I'm ready to cry, scream, throw up, and from what I know, this book will make me do that. Killing Sarai by J.A. Redmersky. This actually is the oldest book on my TBR on Goodreads, and I know it's a dark romance. There's a contract killer. There's a woman escaping. Devil Crept In by Anya Alborn. Don't know what this is about. I think the devil might be creeping in. The Midnight Bargain by C.L. Polk. I desperately need to read a full-length novel from this author because I read one of their novellas and it was so good. Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. This is another booktube crime that I've committed for not having read this fantasy series. For some reason, Brandon Sanderson just kind of overwhelms me. I've only read a few of his books, and his actual Cosmere series has just, you know, it's been there looming in the distance and I haven't wanted to read it, but I'm gonna pick up Mistborn because Riley read it a few months ago and she said it's like Bridgerton in the first book because they go to balls, and no one's been talking about that. That's what I want. A heist and some balls? Yeah, I need that. Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. Sci-fi about a woman who's on a research team that goes into like an alien planet, I think. Role Playing by Kathy Yardley. A romance about gamers who meet in an online RPG game. And they're a little bit older. Like I think the woman is like in her 40s and the guy might be 50. The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. All I know, guys, is I like the cover and it's cozy fantasy. Brick, Dust, and Bones by M.R. Fournet. We're changing it up. This is middle grade and it's a fantasy. No idea what it is beyond this, but I like the cover. The Screaming Staircase by Jonathan Stroud. Another middle grade. No idea what it's about, but I got recommended it a long time ago. The Dead Friend Project by Joanna Wallace. I really enjoyed You'd Look Better as a Ghost by this author, so I want to pick up another book from her, and this is her most recent book. Fortune Favors the Dead by Stephen Spotswood. This is a detective noir that features lesbians. Sign me up. That's my catchphrase in this video. Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. I think this is a horror book that's supposed to be really weird. The Stars Are on Our Side by Jennifer Hartman. This is a continuation of a Jennifer Hartman series that I've been reading. My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. This is about a girl who's very obsessed with horror movies and something starts happening in her small town and she's like, oh my god, this is the plot of a horror movie. Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. I'll say it again. Thriller Plus podcast. Sarah's gonna read it. Shark Heart by Emily Haybeck. This is a lot of people's favorite book last year, and I know it's about a woman whose husband starts turning into a shark. The plot sounds weird, but I know it's been known to make people cry. And like I said, I'm ready to cry, scream, throw up. Like I need some books that will make me feel some emotions. Voices in the Snow by Darcy Coates. I think this is a horror romance about a woman who gets stuck in the snow and has to stay in this random man's mansion and there's like ghosts there or something. Siren and Queen by Nevo. This is about a woman who's an Asian starlet in old Hollywood. People have to do like dark magic in order for things to be successful. So there's like monsters. There's also a sapphic romance in it. Homegrown Magic by Jamie Pacton and another author whom I did not write their name down. Sorry to this other author. This is a cozy fantasy and I think it's sapphic. Don't know much beyond that besides that the cover is very cute. How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying by Django Wexler. From what I know, this is like cozy fantasy-esque. It's funny, it's humor. I don't know. People were reading it last year and they liked it and I want to try it. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I pretty much read every Grady Hendrix book that comes out and this one comes out next year. And the cover for this, ugh, best cover yet for him. He should absolutely kiss his cover designer on the mouth. literally, with tongue. Kill Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. This has been recommended very highly by a lot of booktubers as well as subscribers to me, so I need to pick this up. From what I know, it's two strangers who meet and they decide to kill someone for each other in their lives. Nestlings by Nat Cassidy. Mary is one of my favorite horror books that I've ever read, so I just want to read more Nat Cassidy. I'll read anything that this man writes. The Violence by Delilah S. Dawson. I read Bloom because it's one of Riley's favorite books, and I did not love it as much as her, but I definitely want to give Delilah S. Dawson more chances. And this is one of her older titles. It's actually a full-length novel. Vanished by Nicole McKeon. I have to be so for real. I don't know what this is about. I have it here on my list and it says historical fantasy. Don't know what it's about. I put it on my list a while ago. Don't even remember what the cover looks like. Editing Sarah knows. I don't know. Graveyard Shift by Emma Rio. I have been waiting for Emma Rio to come out with another book for so long. Private Rights by Julia Armfield. Our Wives Under the Sea had some of the best writing I've ever read, so I immediately need Julia's new book. I really, really do. So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison. Assuming this is about vampires. I've actually never read a Rachel Harrison book, but they've always caught my eye because they have really nice covers, and this is by far her best cover. It's so gorgeous, so beautiful. I'm obsessed. Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. All I know is that this is a translated horror. American Rapture by CJ Leet. Another horror by the author who wrote Mayfly. I really enjoyed Mayfly. I know that's a controversial, divisive book. I really liked it, so I'm excited to read about another unhinged girly. Angel's Blood by Nalini Singh. From what I know, this is Crescent City before it was Crescent City, and I'm kind of over Sarah J. Maas. I'm not really going to pick up her books anymore, and I'm looking for a replacement for the Crescent City series. And from what I know, this is it. This is it. We're living in a world with angels and demons and supernatural creatures and some sort of city. Someone in the Attic by Andrea Mara. Assuming someone's in the attic, that sounds very scary to me, so I want to pick it up. The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. This is a sci-fi where all these people end up with strings, and depending on the length of your string, it kind of dictates how long you're going to live. So people start like treating each other differently based on their strings. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. Another crime that I've committed as a reader. I haven't read this, but I want to because I know it's cozy sci-fi. It's goofy, it's funny, it's silly. I've never seen the movie with Zooey Deschanel, so I'm fresh. I'm ready to read this. I want to have a good time. Our Hideous Progeny by C.E. McGill. My understanding is that this is a Frankenstein retelling, and the main character is a woman who's very independent. She's a scientist, and there's a woman that she has like a crush on, but the woman is married. And I've heard there's a lot of like female rage in this, and it's historical. I don't know. Sounds like things I'd be into. Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. Still haven't read Cassie's first foray into adult fantasy, and I need to read it. Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. British romance. People at a Wedding. Real by Kennedy Ryan. I know this is about actors who are like working on a movie that's about the Harlem Renaissance, and I think the woman has a chronic illness. 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. Everyone and their mom recommends this book. Like, it is a book club book that people read, and I need to pick it up. I know it's about these authors who like loved each other a long time ago, then they like kind of missed their connection, and now they're meeting up now later. And so they're kind of reconnecting. It's a second chance romance. 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. I know this has to do with old gods. Something with gods. The Last Quintista by Donna Barba Higuera. I know this one's middle grade sci-fi that takes place in space, and it's about oral storytelling. These Violent Delights by Micah Neveremmer. I kept going back and forth if I wanted this one on my list because some people have told me that it's boring, but other people have recommended it to me. Educating Caroline by Patricia Cabot. Okay, this has been on my TBR for at least 4 years because I once saw a TikTok of a girl who was selling this book so hard. She was like, this is one of the most underrated Regency romance. It's about this woman and this man who are both engaged, but they're at a ball and they walk in and they see that their like fiancés are having an affair and like fucking each other. And so they're very upset. So to get back at them, they're gonna hook up. Thank You for Listening by Julia Whalen. Julia Whalen is one of my favorite audiobook narrators, and she wrote a book a while ago and I haven't picked it up. And I know it's a romance and she narrates it. So I gotta listen to the audiobook. I do. I gotta give Julia her flowers and give her a chance. Devon and Chris Plan a Wedding by Chensia C. Higgins. All I know is that this is a sapphic romance and I think people are planning a wedding. A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft. No idea what this is about, but I know it's queer and I know the cover is beautiful. The Memory Theater by Karen Tidbeck. I also don't know what this is about, but my dear friend Monica put it on her favorites list a couple years ago. So I'm gonna listen to Monica and I'm gonna read it. The Palace Job by Patrick Weeks. No idea why this is on my TBR. It was just on my want to read shelf and I know that it has to do with a heist. And as I keep saying, I love a heist, so I'm gonna try it. Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. I think this is a historical fiction. It's pretty bleak and dark. I think it has to do with like execution. The Ghost Bride by Yang Zi Chu. I think this is a historical horror book about a ghost bride. The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I do have to admit that this was my August book club pick for my Patreon, and have I read it yet? Have we had the live show? No. But I've always had very high hopes for this book. My patrons have been hating it, so I am gonna read it in the month of October so that we can have a live show finally, like 2 months late. This is the first time that I've ever been really behind on a book club book. I don't know, I've just been very busy. My patrons are probably screaming at the screen right now like, no, Sarah, it's so bad. I don't care, guys. I don't care. I have high hopes. This has been on my TBR for a long time. Homegoing by Ya Jessie. People compare this book to Pachinko a lot because it's a generational story about a family, and that intrigues me because Pachinko is one of my favorite books I've ever read. A Sure Thing by Joanna Lowell. This is a historical romance that has male trans rep, which sounds very interesting and unique. Master of Crows by Grace Draven. It's been many years since I read a romantasy from Grace Draven, and I need to read more of her because I've loved a lot of books by her. The Other Side of Night by Adam Hamdy. No idea what this is about. I just know it's a thriller and that people like it. Murder Your Employer by Rupert Holmes. This is solely based on the cover. I Want You More by Swan Huntley. I think this is an unhinged main character who's like obsessed with someone, and that is, as I keep saying, right up my alley. Sign me up. That does bring us to the end of the list. And you might be saying, Sarah, that was only 95 books. What do you mean you have 5 more? I want all of you in the comments to let me know what you think the 5 remaining books I should read are. And I will figure out a way to choose which ones I'm gonna read. I might do it randomly. I might pick the ones that show up the most. I don't know. I'll do something, but I really need your help because, you know, I don't know all the books in the world. I got a little overwhelmed even while I was making this list because it's so hard to decide what should go on this list and what shouldn't. Also, if there are any books on this list that you absolutely strongly feel I should not read, that you don't think I'll like, please let me know in the comments. I might still read it. You know, I'm a free agent. But if you're like, oh, no, you won't like that because that has the surprise pregnancy trope or something like that, let me know. Like if you know stuff about my reading taste. I also will be allowing myself to switch out things. I'm gonna set up some rules on how that's gonna work. But I know there's probably gonna be like new releases next year that I'm gonna get interested in that I don't know about right now. And so I'm not going to force myself to commit to this TBR forever and ever and ever. If you think it's the end of this video, feel free to use the ghost emoji because I am wearing my little ghost sweater. Also, for anyone who's wondering, the sweater is from Hot Topic because I feel like people are gonna ask. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying Saraween, and I thank you all so much for watching. You're all beautiful. Have a nice day. And I want you to guess, based on my outfit, what animal my shifter was. If you say it's a horse, I'm gonna throw up. Also, the inner stallion keeps being like, I need to ride her. I just need you to know that, like, you will be paying for my therapy next week. A honey badger, which I'll be so honest, I had to Google because I thought that was a fake animal.
It feels like 2 mouths are on her, and I'm scared of what that means.